Okay, we're going to be taking a look at Victory at Sea, designed by John Edwards and originally published by Jedko in 1992. But this game has had a tangled history, and I think the history of it is kind of interesting in itself. So let's go back a little bit and tell you what's going on with that. All right, now John Edwards designed the original The War at Sea back in 1975. Later on, Avalon Hill purchased the rights for it, and that edition came out in 1976. Now, there was a variant called Victory at Sea, and I've not been able to get a cover of the box. Perhaps there wasn't one, but it was a variant for Victory in the Pacific, also done by Avalon Hill. And then there's the Jedko cover of Victory at Sea. I have never seen this game. I've never been able to track it down. I can find almost no information on it. Now, I got this photograph off the web, and it clearly shows Victory at Sea, published by L2 Publishing. Now, that's another game I've never seen. I never knew that L2 published Victory at Sea. If anyone has a copy or something, or please post us a picture of some of the components. I'd love to see them. But I have no evidence that this game even exists. Which brings us to the present. We're going to take a look at Victory at Sea. Compass Games Edition just came out. I've only had my copy a couple of weeks, and it is a beautiful edition indeed. Let's take a look. So you can see the history of this game can be a little bit confusing, because War at Sea and Victory at Sea are two different games, although they share about 95% similarities. And I'll talk about those differences later. But we're going to be looking at War at Sea. So the confusion is the original one was called The War at Sea, then it morphed into War at Sea, and then John Edwards himself redid War at Sea, calling it Victory at Sea in 1992. So the game has had a tangled history. So what Compass has done is reprinted the 1992 edition of the Jedko original. And let's take a look at the components. The map to the game is quite nice, and you may notice some changes. The original War at Sea and had only 6 areas. This one now has 7. So they've added the Caribbean. You'll also notice a U-boat technology track here. We'll get to those in a second about the rules for those. Your points of control chart is up here. That's the same. You've got an order of arrival chart over here on the right. Here. And the rest of the map is pretty well the way you remember it from War at Sea. And there are, I think, 10 changes. Some of them very slight. Others a bit more involved. Now, the rule booklet is 14 pages, but 2 of those pages include the counter mix themselves. It's got the shiny paper, large font, profusely illustrated, very easy to learn. I always work from copies, so I always make a copy of the rules. This way I can yellow in and highlight whatever I like. But I found the rules easy to read and an easy game to learn. It's virtually the same as War at Sea. It's so similar. I don't see why this game shouldn't be part of the WBC War at Sea tournament. But that's in other hands. Illustrations of play, of course. One of the new rules is secondary fire, secondary armament. You've got admirals in this game. German surface raiders down here. Add some elements to it. So you can see there's only about 13 pages of actual rules. Now the counters are 1 inch and they're just gorgeous. get to them in a minute. You've got your setup card. All of the ships that set up on the board go in this card, reminiscent of the old Avalon Hill days. You get 2 quick reference sheets with virtually all your main charts and rules here. Flip side there, and there's 2 of those in the game. I got some spare counters, which I wasn't sure what it was for. I think it was because a couple of the counters turned out to be light, and Compass was nice enough to just give me a spare set of some of those counters, and that was appreciated. Let's take a look at the counters themselves. Now, here are some sample British counters. They are just beautiful. They show the silhouettes of the ships. Numbers are the same that we're used to. The attack factor, the defense factor, and the movement factor. And they are double-sided. And the reason they're double-sided is because there is some limited intelligence moves in this. Under certain circumstances, some ships can be flipped over, and you won't know the size of the vessel. And each side also has 1 decoy counter either. So those are the British. And like I said, they are large and they're quite beautiful. Here's some sample damage counters in comparison. You can see they're smaller, the 1/2-inch ones. They're quite nice. Okay, we'll throw on some random German and Italian counters. You can see the quite large size again. Andrea Doria, my good old Bismarck, Hipper, Gorizia, and the Pola. Again, large counters, very nice looking. And here's some sample American and Russian ships. The Marat, the October Revolution, Augusta, Wichita, New York, Tuscaloosa, Washington, and Texas. Nice looking counters. Okay, there's some sample control markers. They're not double-sided because they don't really need to be. And these are informational counters, your turn record. When a German ship has been designated as a surface raider, you'll use one of these. This you'll use on the U-boat technology chart here. It can be in favor of the Axis or favor of the Allies. The U-boat war was quite important, and that's acknowledged in this game. Well, how does the game play? Well, I can't comment too much on it. I've only solitaired it, and I'm not a veteran at the War at Sea system, so is it balanced? After reading the Board Gamer's Guide to War at Sea, which is a good guide, by the way, I've come to the conclusion that this game is not as luck-oriented as I thought originally. There is a lot of luck in it, but the skillful player should win the game unless the dice get really out of whack, which can happen in any game. But the statistics over the years from the WBC and Avalon Con have shown that actually the game is pretty balanced. It's more of a game than a simulation, but this game is just a lot of fun. It's nice and light, and you can teach it in 10, 15 minutes. So I made some notes here on some of the changes, and I'll go over those. Okay, we mentioned the 7 areas in this board. There's 7 areas, while the original War at Sea had only 6. The sequence of play is just altered in one part. The Italians move first, and then the Allies, and then the Germans. So I don't know why that matters. I don't have enough experience to know if that makes a big difference. We mentioned the U-boat technology. That changes, not necessarily linear. It just doesn't get progressively worse like it did historically. Who's to say that German technology didn't defeat Allied technology by the end of the war? We also have the channel with a minefield. I don't think that's in the original War at Sea. I don't seem to it being there. But they have them in this game here. So if the Axis player goes through the channel, he's going to have to suffer a minefield kind of role, which is not too good. And they also exist at Gibraltar down here. So that's new to the game. There is limited intelligence. In your turn, certain vessels can be flipped face down when you put them in an area, so your enemy won't know exactly what you've got, which is a nice little improvement. The damage control is slightly different, unless it's the same and I'm just not remembering it. It says in this one that when a ship has 3 or more hits on it, it's considered to be critically hit. And of course that can affect the game too. Now you get admirals in the game. You get 2 admiral counters, which at this present time I can't quite find. But you can put them in an area and they will enhance your movement abilities. The battleships also, they've accounted for secondary armament. So if battleships are against cruisers, they've added that these battleships here are pretty formidable. And they had all kinds of armament that was abstracted out in War at Sea. But in here, secondary armament will matter. I've already mentioned the surface raiders, that German ships under certain conditions can become surface raiders instead of being attacked. So they can also go to the German oiler area. The setup I notice is different. You can set up 2 German ships already in the German oiler area. That's to account for ships like the Graf Spee breaking out early in the war. Now I got my production copy of the Kaiser's High Seas Fleet, which is due out, we hope, in the spring of 2025. And Compass has done one heck of a good job on this game too. So I don't know, having these 2 is kind of nice. It's like a twin pack for me, World War I and World War II. So let's not hold our breath, but High Seas Fleet will be coming out soon in the new year, we hope. But Compass has done a very nice job of Victory at Sea. I never had the original Jedko copy, and I always regretted that. But this is a fine production, and good learning tournament game too. So that's it for now, and thank you for watching.